Safety and Sanitation meeting to order. And what we're doing is the same thing we do every year. At this time, usually I try to do it earlier before the budget process starts, but I know, Nino, you've already had your budget process, so if you can just take like 10 minutes, just go over upcoming things for this year, expenses and projects that you may anticipate.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. So we definitely have had our challenges with respect to sanitation department over this last year. In terms of cost, the operations, there are two big ticket items, one being the first being the labor, and then the second being the tip fees. The supervisors have handled the difficulties with the labor market very well over the years. However, as the council's aware, we most likely need to move away from the part-time laborers. We've been utilizing part-time laborers at 29 hours a week for 12 years, and that market's kind of dried up. So as we're proposing, we'd like to talk about trading the 5 part-time laborers for 2 full-timers, and I think it would help with respect to the labor force. So we're fortunate also to have started our CDL training program, and what that'll do is it'll entice some of these younger folks with a valid driver's license, come in, enhance their skills, get a Class B with air brake endorsement, or possibly upgrade from a B to an A. And it's twofold. It helps the city because we have additional drivers, and it also obviously helps the employee because now they have an endorsement that the city helped them obtain. So it's a good program, and we're just getting that rolling, so I think that's a great improvement. As I mentioned earlier, the other big ticket item are the CPF tip fees. So John's here, we've been having conversations back and forth. I think we've been talking about these tip fees for my whole career. We don't control the tip fees. It's where the designation for flow control is at the county solid waste district. We have to take all organic material to the county CPF. So there's a plan that's written and approved by the EPA. We were just chatting about that. The council votes on it, the City of Brunswick Council, all the political entities, subdivisions in the whole county make up solid waste district. And this plan is what governs, you know, the CPF and what goes there, what doesn't go there, what's exempt, and then of course the fees. The fees currently are $55 per ton. With that, they're going up $1 a year. They're supposed to go to $58 by 2028 and be capped. We were hopeful that was going to change, so we're kind of on hold with what we're going to do. We've talked about transfer station, you know, looking into that. I mean, that's a big expense, but it's obviously something that we could look at. Some other items, our most important goal in sanitation is to keep striving forward and lessening the amount of waste that goes to landfill. So we do our recycling. We were talking about cardboard. We do the yard waste program. We do diversion of food waste that goes to the waste digester, or it'll go to some of the farms in Portage County. So those are the things that we try to improve on that we can control. With that, that's our recycling program. When people ask, you know, are you recycling? How much? The cardboard is 316 tons a year. The yard waste is another 318 tons. We've had good luck with the yard waste program. It's improved, you know, over the years since we started in 2017. It's grown, and people really enjoy the service. However, we've not charged for that service or cardboard, and as we talk about the rates going forward, in our recent discussions, we're talking about charging starting in January for cardboard pickup. So that would be half the rate that we currently charge for commercial, which is still fair. We're about $8,000 into wages. There's another $4,000 for truck wear and tear, and then to haul the materials. So those are the things that we're looking at. Some quick numbers. In 2023, the Sanitation Department hauled over 26,142 tons of trash, and that was at a cost of $1.4 million, obviously at $55 a ton. The residential component, when you divide residential versus commercial, it was approximately 12,450 tons, and on the commercial side, it was a little more. It was 13,692. That number was up from the 2022 number of total tonnage. And talking to John, it's funny, he says, I don't see a recession or people being affected by the high costs, because from January to currently, our numbers are really up. So that's kind of the barometer of what's going on, in society, in the city. So
Sure.
With that, we're moving forward, and we're going to keep doing the things we do, and we're hopeful that this whole recycling world will straighten out one way. And, at some point when it does, we don't mind getting on board. But until then, we're just going to continue doing the things that I just referenced.
And again, I'm sure I can speak for everybody here that, we all appreciate what you and your staff have done for the citizens of Medina. And, unfortunately, not everybody can appreciate. Like I said, it's one of the few departments in the tenure that I've been here that I've never heard a complaint about sanitation or the pickup. They're always just complimentary. So hats off to you. Any other members have any questions for Nino? Nino, thank you very much.
Well, thank you all. Appreciate the support and consideration. Thanks.
Chief Walters, you're up.
Okay, thank you. So in addition to just keeping up with 30-plus-year-old buildings, fire stations, that is, probably the two most notable projects that we're working on or looking into is a health and wellness program for the firefighters. Every year we learn a little bit more about the risks associated for cancer and firefighters. Unfortunately, that's the data that's coming out. So there are some things that we can do on the front end before a fire and after a fire to help minimize some of those risks. And there's a lot of recommendations out there, so we're looking into that, as well as maybe some screening programs down the road to help with early detection, that sort of thing. But probably the most important one to talk about would be staffing improvements or expansions, I guess is probably a better way to put it. Currently, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, over the last 2-3 years, we expanded the staffing so that we actually have firefighters at a fire station from 8 a.m. until midnight, 7 days a week now. But after midnight until 8 a.m., we have no firefighters at the station. So part of the data that we're putting together to kind of see what type of benefit that we could get from this has to do with response times, obviously. But just some of the real raw numbers are anywhere from 6 to 13 minutes of a difference that it can make between having firefighters at a station next to a fire truck and then versus them coming from home in the middle of the night. So of course that could be one of the worst times, because those are the times that we're more likely to end up with people trapped because they were in bed when the fire started in their home. So we're still using all part-time firefighters in Medina, and that is actually working really well for us. It's different than what Nina was talking about. The reason why the part-time people work so well for us is because when we need more than just a shift full of them, they are local. So we're, like right now, we are looking to hire an undetermined number just to make up for some holes that we have, people that have left over the last couple of years. And one of the requirements is we want them to live within Medina County. So they can work their part-time shift here, and at 3 in the morning, if they are not at their full-time job in some other city, they would be available to come to one of our fires, which is very unique for us. If you look at all of the fire departments throughout Medina County, the other 2 cities included, nobody puts as many of their own firefighters at a fire as what we do. For example, don't quote me on the numbers, but if Wadsworth or Brunswick had 6 or 8 or 12 full-time firefighters on a shift and they had a fire, they would rely on 3 or 4 or 5 other fire departments to come supplement the number of firefighters that they need. Whereas in Medina, in fact, our last 2 fires, we didn't require any additional help. So that it's a very different situation with the part-time, how we use the part-time people. And about 80% of those part-time firefighters are full-time elsewhere. So back to the project that we're doing here, I just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page with how we're currently doing it. What we'd like to do is find a way to get that overnight covered with, just to start with, 1 station of, 1 engine, 3 firefighters. That is becoming an industry standard, accepted, safe way of doing it. But there are some challenges there that we got to look into. We need to see how many that we might need to do that to cover those shifts. Currently, the part-time folks that we're using, they're pretty tapped out. With the additional staffing that we've already added, the additional shifts, they've taken many of those. Some of them are working right up toward the 29-hour-a-week maximum that we cut them off at. So they don't have a ton left to give, between full-time vacations, that kind of thing, their full-time job and then what they're doing here. So the total number of shifts that overnight would, for 3 people working that overnight, it comes out to just under 1,100 shifts. So that could be, if you just did the short math on it, we might need 15 additional part-time people. The upsides are, in addition to the operational benefits that I mentioned earlier about the local people, there are significant cost savings, of course. I don't want to state any of those numbers just at this point. We're still trying to sort through some of that, but as you can imagine, there's significantly a lot of cost savings, provided we could do it. If we could find a way to be successful, and I think that's the key point here, right? This model would need to be something that we could continue and be able to rely on. We certainly don't want to go to the public and tell them, or the 2 townships, because of course they would be a part of this, that we were going to add this additional staffing and then not be able to fill those those seats. That's happened in a lot of places, and certainly I don't think Medina wants to participate in that. So maybe one idea that we are considering doing is looking at an implementation process in phases. So we do it as a trial period, and maybe we do Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 6 months, see how it goes, get a better feel for what we get out of it, how successful it is and reliable. And I think that could also give us an idea how many additional people it would take to do that for that full 1,100 shifts a year. Yeah. So a lot of work left to do to get some good numbers and recommendations for the mayor and council yet, but I didn't want to talk about painting or replacing the drapes when at the end of the day, this is really what could make the biggest difference to the community and the department. So, but a lot of work left to do on it. So if you have any questions at this point, I'll try, but I didn't bring any hard numbers just yet.
I think just the increase in the staffing for the 16 hours a day to being 7 days a week in the last few years has just showed to be so beneficial. So I appreciate what you're doing there as far as getting the numbers together to present to the administration and council, because you're right, the fires that come in the middle of the night, they may be few and far apart, but they can be the most serious ones because of people sleeping in those hours. So
yeah,
thank you. Any other members have any questions for the chief?
Mr. Simpson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just one thing. So I just want to acknowledge the chief's efforts on this wellness issue. because that's very important to us to take care of our people. We've also brought in Chief Kinney because, as you all know, our police officers generally respond initially to the fire until the fire truck can get there.
Right.
So we've also brought in first, probably a month ago, Dr. Manpara, who is a local oncologist who can talk about cancers and treatment and risk, but not initial diagnosis. And so just a week or two ago, we had another meeting with Dr. John Surso, who's been in our community for years and very involved in these types of things. And both of them are reviewing all of the research that the chief has gathered to then make recommendations of, is this scan more beneficial than this blood test? And once we determine which of the screening devices they would recommend, then we do it annually, biannually, you know, at what intervals. So we're continuing to work our way through those things, but I just wanted to compliment the chief on first the research and recognizing this, and then our local medical community and supporting us with it, so.
Sure. And, you know, to go along those lines, in a much larger scale, but after 9/11, the police officers, firefighters, and EMS, and again, I understand this is a smaller scale, but it brought to light the dangers of the toxicity that is involved in fires and the environment surrounding a fire. So, yeah, hats off to you, Chief, for moving this forward. Thanks for your support. Anything else from the fire chief? Chief Kinney, you're up. Thank you, Chief.
Okay. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to give you updates about what's going on in the police department. I appreciate it. I'll start out with staffing. Right now in our patrol division, we have 41 full-time officers. We are authorized at 42, so we will be hiring one. We're going through that process as we speak. We do have two cadets at the academy right now. They will be graduating in July. They'll be out on the road with an FTO for 3 months training, and hopefully, if all goes well, they'll be out on their own probably by the fall. Dispatch, we continue to struggle filling positions in dispatch. We have 2 candidates that we've offered positions to, and they're currently going through their training as well. Really, the struggle that we're having there is because for the pay, they can go to a car dealership, they can go to an office and not have to work nights and weekends and holidays. So that's the huge challenge that we have in dispatch, trying to find the right people that, number one, have the skills to do that job, because it's a very, very difficult job, and number two, have that innate drive for public service to want to work at night and work on holidays and miss family functions and things like that at that pay scale. So it's a challenge for us. Not only us, but it's every dispatch center, every chief I've spoken to. We compare notes across the state, and everybody is struggling with the same thing. So we're working through that, and hopefully we'll get some stability there with the dispatchers. I'll give you an update on some of the projects that we've started this year. As you're aware, it got approved through council, the body camera and car camera project. We upgraded our both body cams and car cams. We're in the process of that. We've got all the equipment in. IT with Darren and Justin, they're deploying the servers, and we have our car upfitters installing all the cameras and all the body cameras for the officers as well. So once we have that infrastructure all in place, we'll deploy those cameras. Hopefully we'll get another 5 to 6 years out of it. We got 6 years out of the last rev. The prior rev to that was 5 years, so it seems like it's a recycle of about every 5 years. It's expensive, but that's what we had to carry forward for. I saved that up as we go through the years, and we're able to afford that without new appropriations. Our flock camera system is very, very useful. Just over the few years that we've had that deployed, we have solved multiple crimes. We have recovered missing children, missing adults, at-risk missing adults, and an untold number of stolen vehicles and warrants. Most recently, it was used to solve a hit skip on East Smith, where a citizen was seriously injured by getting hit by a vehicle. The vehicle took off, and the flock camera system was one of the components, one of the many components that we used to solve that crime. Our detective bureau did an incredible job with that, leveraging all types of different technology, but the flock camera system was one piece of that technology that brought all the pieces together. Just recently, we had an arson where somebody set someone's house on fire. The house had 4 people in it. We were able to arrest the suspect, filed 4 counts of aggravated arson, and potentially at a later date, 4 counts of attempted murder. That was another situation where the flock camera played an integral part there. Again, the Detective Bureau did an incredible job of bringing all different types of technology together, but the flock system being able to tie that person's vehicle when they came into the city, and then in conjunction with cellular tower data, we were able to pinpoint and prove that individual was in that area at that time. So it's just a piece of equipment, a piece of technology that we leverage, and it has solved many crimes, and one that we can't even quantify is how many crimes it's prevented. A lot of these stolen cars, and we didn't recover all of them. Some of them, they'll come into the city in a stolen car, and they're here in a stolen car to commit crimes. They'll steal other vehicles, they'll break into cars, and then take off and go back out of the city. Well, a lot of these we've intercepted. They flee from us. That's the one downside of the flock system, is that our pursuits have gone way up. But we've had several flee from us in such a manner that it wasn't safe to continue the pursuit, so we've terminated the pursuit, but they left the city. So they were outside of the city. Again, we have no idea how many of those had an intent to commit additional crimes in the city of Medina. We don't know that. Sure. So, but they left the city, whether we chased them out or they left on their own accord. That was another very useful outcome from the flock system. One other project that we just started working on is a school canine in the high school. The school personnel approached the school resource officer and myself and expressed an interest in having a canine in the high school to be handled by the SRO. This canine's main responsibility would be bomb detection, firearm detection, as well as a therapy dog once we research that certification. The school will be able to pay for that canine through grant funding. So it will not be any funding from the school, no funding from local taxes here. It's a grant, Ohio school safety grant that's comes through the governor's office. So I just want to reiterate, it will not cost the school any money or us. So they will be providing that grant funding for that dog. Once we get the MOU between the police department and the school squared away, it's now with the law director. So that's the last piece of this puzzle, the last piece of the process. We'll go to the breeder, who's the same breeder that we just got our most recent canine Tango from, and we'll find a German Shorthair Pointer. That's what the dog will be. The handler, it's Nick McLaren, Officer Nick McLaren, who's the SRO at the high school. He'll go through a 1-month training session with the breeder, the trainers out in Pennsylvania. It's right across the border. And if we can time it right, hopefully we'll be able to deploy this canine for the upcoming school year. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. Again, I think it's phenomenal what your staff provides the citizens of Medina and Lafayette Townships. Their professionalism, and the most comments that I receive is that even when somebody gets stopped for speeding or stopped for questioning about something, that the officers are always very courteous to them and very professional. So I appreciate that. Appreciate all the updates that you've given us. Seems like the citizens are in good hands. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think I also want to say I'm pleased with you department heads and what you guys are able to accomplish with your personnel, which makes us such a nice and safe city to live in. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Everything that they just said. And also, Ed, thank you to your police officers for rescuing me when I locked my keys in my car.
You're welcome.
There you go.
We're all fortunate to live and work here, there's no doubt
Yes.
about that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Gentlemen, thank you for the updates. If there's no other further questions, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting and get ready for finance.